And the Lord God said unto the woman, What is this that thou hast done? And the woman said, The serpent beguiled me, and I did eat. And the Lord God said unto the serpent, Because thou hast done this, thou art cursed above all cattle, and above every beast of the field. Upon thy belly shalt thou go, and dust shalt thou eat all the days of thy life. And I will put enmity between thee and the woman, and between thy seed and her seed. It shall bruise thy head, and thou shalt bruise his heel. Unto the woman he said, I will greatly multiply thy sorrow and thy conception. In sorrow thou shalt bring forth children, and thy desire shall be to thy husband, and he shall rule over thee.
Let me ask you this first of all. Why did you do it? I realize that you had an intellectual conviction that birth control was a boon to mankind, but I'm sure that others have that conviction too. And so what I'd like to know is this. What events, what emotions in your life made Margaret Sanger a crusader for birth control?
Well, Mr. Wallace, it's hard to say that any one thing has made one do this or that. I think from the very beginning, I came of a large family. My mother died young, 11 children. That made an impression on me as a child. I was a trained nurse, went among the people. I saw women who asked to have some means whereby they wouldn't have to have another pregnancy too early after the last child, the last abortion, which many of them had. So there's a number of things that are one after the other that really made you feel that you had to do something.
There are some other possible reasons that suggest themselves on reading your biography by Lawrence later. Your mother, as you say, died prematurely after bearing 11 children. She was born a Catholic, was she not?
She was born a Catholic, yes.
And
in Ireland.
Your father was a sort of a village atheist who clashed with church authorities. And because of his atheism, his earnings dwindled under community pressure. You and your brothers and sisters were known as, quote, children of the devil, end quote. Could it be, then, that in part at least, you were driven emotionally toward the birth control movement because of antagonism toward the church, because that was a way to fight the church?
No, I don't think I had anything of the kind in mind. I was what I would call a born humanitarian. I don't like to see people suffer. I don't like to see cruelty, even to this day. And in nursing, you see a great deal of cruelty and unnecessary suffering. At that time, there was no opposition as far as the church was concerned. Any church. It was mainly the law, the federal law and state laws that one had to think of. The church was not in my mind at all.
Margaret Sanger lived from September 14, 1879, until the 6th of September, 1966. Her mother had conceived 18 times and bore 11 children, which Sanger believed took physical toll and resulted in her death at age 50. This thought provoked a fire. She started an 8-page monthly newsletter in 1914 titled The Woman Rebel, with a slogan, "No masters, no gods." This was a phrase from anarchist philosophy which sought to rid the world of authority, hierarchy, and ironically, coercion. The word itself means without a ruler. A common name for it is libertarianism. Sanger had become hostile with Christianity and took up the occult. She believed in sexual liberation and began having affairs with several men, including H.G. Wells, the author of books such as The War of the Worlds and The Island of Dr. Moreau. She separated from her husband, and the woman rebel came soon after.
But in your motive, in the movement, is it possible that the movement itself, the feeling of wanting to do anything that you felt was important, that perhaps that moved you a good deal? Because the fact remains that you led a movement against overwhelming pressures that stemmed back for centuries, and in doing so, according to your autobiography, you even left your first husband. And you wrote this to a friend, Mrs. Sanger. You said, "Where is the man to give me what the movement gives in joy and interest and freedom?" Now, what was this joy, this freedom that you craved?
Well, I don't remember that letter, who it was written, but I think that it was not a question of marriage at all. There was a certain satisfaction in doing something that was going to alleviate the sufferings of women in particular, and I was quite a feminist at the time.
Obviously.
And yes, and I naturally didn't want to see women take all the suffering of childbearing and of pregnancies. So it was a pleasure, in a sense, to think that you were striking at an archaic law, which it was.
The newsletter popularized the term birth control. The divorce was finalized in 1921, and her husband claimed that Sanger's movement was not noble, but an excuse to practice Saturnalia sex. Saturnalia is a form of Saturn worship, practiced in the month of December as a festival where quote-unquote free sex could be had in public, as well as cross-dressing and drunkenness. It is alleged that she was controlled by who Aleister Crowley called the secret chiefs, a transcendent spiritual hierarchy overseeing all esoteric organizations. It was the secret chiefs that inspired the founding of the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn and its sex magic. If so, Margaret Sanger's job was to involve the entire world in the pagan sex ritual. She, along with her two sisters, Ethel Byrne and Phineas Mendel, opened the first birth control clinic October 16, 1916. It was named the Planned Parenthood Federation of America Incorporated and known later as Planned Parenthood. Together, they distributed birth control and birth control advice. Sanger was influenced by eugenist Havelock Ellis, the author of studies in the philosophy of sex, whom she is also reported to have had an affair. Havelock co-wrote the first medical textbook on homosexuality in 1897, and later transgender psychology, as well as autoeroticism and narcissism, developed further by Sigmund Freud. Havelock himself married a lesbian and believed himself to be impotent until age 60, when he discovered he could become aroused by women urinating. Havelock believed birth control should be used in a target manner to improve the quality of certain stocks, and the solution was focused on contraceptives and education. Under his tutelage, Sanger expanded her birth control strategy to incorporate stress-free, enjoyable sex. Sanger stepped down as president of Planned Parenthood and began the American Birth Control League, ABCL, in 1921, claiming that birth control clinics allow women to control fertility. The ABCL held that children should be 1. Conceived in love, 2. Born of the mother's conscious desires, and 3. Only begotten under conditions which render possible the heritage for health. Therefore, every woman must possess the power of freedom to prevent conception except when conditions can be satisfied. The three sisters were arrested multiple times for violation of the Comstock Act of 1873. The act cited that to import or distribute any device, medicine, or information designed to prevent conception or induce abortion, or to mention and print the names of sexually transmitted infections, was illegal. The act also criminalized the USPS and its officers from conveying obscene matters, crime-inciting material, and abortion-related things. Despite, Sanger went on tours which encouraged more birth control leagues across the United States, touting 27,500 members and 10 branches maintained in Pennsylvania, Ohio, Indiana, Michigan, Massachusetts, Connecticut, Colorado, and the Canadian province of British Columbia. Sanger resigned from the ABCL June 1928. However, in 1929, she set up a lobbying organization called National Committee on Federal Legislation for Birth Control. In 1936, the organization gained a win as the courts ruled that the USPS couldn't stop the dissemination of birth contraceptives coming from a physician in the United States versus one package of Japanese pessaries. As Sanger toured, she told of a woman named Sadie Sachs who had a severe sepsis infection due to a self-induced abortion. Sadie asked how she could prevent it from happening, which she was told to abstain from sex. A few months later, Sadie attempted another self-induced abortion, which killed her. This was the start of Sanger's quest to spare women from dangerous and illegal abortions. Sanger wanted to liberate women from the risk of unwanted pregnancy. She also claimed that poor immigrant women inquired of her how to limit family size. Sanger wrote, "Dysgenic races, those which cause disfavoring traits, should include fundamentalists, Catholics, Blacks, Hispanics, and the American Indian. Through the Negro Project, Sanger worked with W.E.B. Du Bois to bring birth control to Black communities. The initiative spread awareness of contraception to lower poverty rates of the South. Dr. Clarence Gamble, heir to Procter & Gamble, supervised and helped fund the project. In order to facilitate outreach, Sanger recruited Black ministers and physicians. They would tour and dispel misconceptions about birth control. She is quoted as saying, "The most successful educational approach to the Negro is through religious appeal. We do not want word to go out that we want to exterminate the Negro population, and the minister is the man who can straighten out that idea if it ever occurs." Planned Parenthood began advocating for abortion in 1955 under the company's medical director, Mary Calderon, after organizing a conference known as Abortion in the United States. Calderon is known as the mother of sex education. In 1960, the FDA approved the first oral contraceptive, and Calderon lobbied with the American Medical Association to endorse contraception as standard medical practice. Planned Parenthood first focused on quote-unquote therapeutic abortion, performed for medical reasons including saving the life of a pregnant woman, preventing harm to a woman's physical and mental health, preventing birth of children with increased mortality, and reducing the number of fetuses of a woman with multiple to lessen health risk. Elective abortions for non-medical reasons were also available, resulting in 1 in 5 pregnancies ending in induced abortion, mostly as a result of unintended pregnancy. Upon leaving Planned Parenthood, Calderon founded the Sex Information and Education Council of the United States. This started what came to be known as comprehensive sex education. The guidelines for comprehensive sex education goes as follows. Appropriate to the age, developmental level, and cultural background of students. Respects the diversity of values and beliefs represented in the community. Complements and augments the sexuality education children receive from their families, religious and community groups, and health professionals. Teaches not only about abstinence, but also contraception, including emergency contraception and reproductive choice. Teaches about lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender issues and question issues. Teaches anatomy, development, puberty, and relationships. Teaches all of the other issues which would be expected to cover in traditional sexuality education class and should be science-based and medically accurate. For this reason, Calderon was accused of seeking to undermine Christian morality and promote promiscuity to children. In Is the Schoolhouse the Proper Place to Teach Raw Sex?, a 40-page pamphlet written in 1968 by Gordon B. Drake and published by Billy James Hargan's Christian Crusade, was a key document in the fight against sex education in public schools. Sanger had died 2 years prior, and in that year, Planned Parenthood began giving the Margaret Sanger Award to annually honor individuals furthering reproductive health and reproductive rights. Honorees include Carl G. Hartman, William Henry Draper Jr., Lyndon B. Johnson, Martin Luther King Jr., John D. Rockefeller III, Katharine Hepburn, Jane Fonda, Hillary Clinton, and Ted Turner, founder of CNN. At the beginning of the 20th century, Canada, Denmark, Switzerland, and the United States passed laws enabling coerced sterilization. Eugenics research in Germany was inspired by the United States. Lebensborn, aka Fount of Life, was a secret SS-initiated, state-registered association in Nazi Germany with a stated goal of increasing the number of children born who met the Nazi standard of racially pure and healthy Aryans. The policy, or eugenics as it's called, is a selective breeding of Nordic races with homelands in northwestern and northern Europe. The traits were light eyes and skin, tall, and a head width longer than the average. These policies were used to justify involuntary sterilization and mass murder, most notably the Holocaust. However, over 300,000 were murdered during the Action T4 by involuntary euthanasia, which targeted the mentally ill and those with disabilities. Those deemed to have an incurable disposition were given a mercy death. The euthanasia note authorized physician Carl Brandt, known as the escort doctor, and Philip Bowler to begin the killings in 1939. Petitions could also be sent by parents for mercy killings.
In Texas, and this journalist is here to talk business.
Every time I join meeting, I'm like, oh, this is mom.
Yeah, you already know. And this lady is Dr. Ann. She's the chief medical officer of this Planned Parenthood.
Come and play with our tissue. See if it's cool enough for you.
I like tissues.
We have a lot of it. Weeks, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And so I've been a week. So I have two providers who go up to 24 weeks, and Ann is one of the providers.
This lady is named Tram, and she's the vice president of abortion access at Planned Parenthood.
17-week twins in the freezer because we're waiting for funeral home to pick them up. They were like the most intact. And I was like, it's really cool though. There's like 3 legs and like 2 spinal cords. I'm like, yeah, I have like a leg for you. I'm like, oh shit. If other people were to hear me, they'd be like, you're a fucking evil. If I'm doing a procedure and I'm in fear that it's about to come to the umbilicus, I might ask for a second set of forceps. The body at the cervix and pull off the tip.
Oh, okay.
So it's not.
Right. Baby is being birthed, legs out, and as the head and neck are still in the womb, they snip the back of the neck and suck the brains out.
When you have patients who like cooperate moms, some of them are just like, and there's good dilation, it's just like one pass and the truth of the matter is that, yeah.
On August 18, 1939, 3 weeks from killing the first child, Gerard Kretzmar, the Wright Committee for the Scientific Registering for Hereditary and Congenital Illnesses was established to register sick children and newborns identified as defective. He called these children Lesborn Swerters, Leben, life unworthy of life. Extermination centers were created and midwives and doctors were required to report all cases of newborns with disabilities. In Catholic areas, when parents were uncooperative, they were told their child would be sent to a special section where they were then injected with phenol, and their deaths were recorded as pneumonia. The program expanded to adults, at times killing them en masse by gunshot. As women became emboldened, a political movement arose in the late 1960s, dubbed the Women's Liberation Movement. The WLM questioned the validity of the patriarchy and sought to eliminate sex-based roles and the power dynamic between the two. Women called for legal equality as well as being granted reproductive rights, increasing women in the workplace, redefining the family, and urging lesbianism, which was understood to be the natural result of feminism. The slogan "My Body, My Choice" as a stance for the freedom of choice regarding bodily autonomy, abortion, and end-of-life care became a hashtag for Planned Parenthood in 2015.
They shouted, hoping this time they'll be heard. U.S. women have had legal access to abortion since the landmark 1973 Roe v. Wade Supreme Court ruling. But in recent years and months, conservative states have passed laws restricting abortion. The protest was held 2 days before the Supreme Court examines a restrictive Mississippi law. The court has already refused to block a Texas bill that bans abortions after 6 weeks of pregnancy.
How can you be pro-life but force a rape victim to have her rapist baby? How can you be pro-life and force a young girl to become a mother before she can even get her driver's license?
According to 18 scientific studies from domestic foreign medical journals, a direct relationship between first trimester abortions and breast cancer has been demonstrated, but the science has been blocked by proponents of abortion and population control. In 1996, a new paper consisting of 23 studies cited the same. According to the WHO, abortion is the leading cause of death worldwide, with approximately 73 million globally every year, more than the entire population of the United Kingdom.
I've had a few, but then again, I can't remember exactly how many.
What, really?
Yeah, I can't remember. Yeah, I think maybe like, I want to say 5, 4 or 5.
Yeah, I've had about 5 too. Lily, I'm so happy I can say that, and you can say it, and no one came to shoot us down.
No judgment.
No judgment. We've had about the same amount of abortions. So,
I remember once getting pregnant and the man paying for my abortion and me thinking it was so romantic.
I actually think that is romantic. Do you not think that's romantic? Whoops. Am I an idiot?